I purposely failed my college entrance exam. Mom's hands were shaking while she stared at the paper with my terrible SAT results. This has to be wrong, she kept saying over and over while Dad just stood there completely quiet. I'd scored in the bottom 10% of all kids who took the test. The same kid who got straight A's since middle school. You're taking it again next month, Dad finally said. We'll get you the best tutor we can find, because this score means you're going to community college if you're lucky. Mom started crying, which made my chest hurt because she started to notice I'd bubbled in random answers on every single question. They called my school counselor that same afternoon asking how their smart kid could mess up this badly. She didn't understand either since all my practice tests had been almost perfect. We need to find out what went wrong that day, Mom kept saying. They planned this big family meeting and told my younger brother Caleb to stay in his room while we talked. I could hear him coughing through the walls during their whole speech about my future, and I kept my mouth shut because explaining anything would break my promise to him. Dad hired this expensive SAT tutor to figure out what went wrong with me during the test. She went through every practice problem with me looking super confused about what she was seeing. You know all this stuff perfectly, she told us after we'd met 3 times. Your practice scores show you should have gotten one of the highest scores in the country based on what you know. She pulled Dad aside and said, maybe I got really nervous or had a panic attack during the real test. I just nodded along like that made sense even though we both knew it was a lie. Caleb was homesick from school that week and I could hear him throwing up in the bathroom while the tutor talked. My math teacher pulled me aside after class looking really worried about me. I heard about your SAT scores and it makes 0 sense, he said quietly. You're one of the best math students I've had in 20 years of teaching. He offered to write a letter saying my test scores were wrong, but I told him not to bother. My parents got madder every day when I didn't seem to care about fixing my scores or talking about what happened. It's like you don't even care about your future, Dad yelled at dinner one night. If only he knew how much I cared about our family's real future. Then Mom found the acceptance letter I'd hidden in my closet from our local state college honors program. I had a full scholarship based on my grades and teacher recommendations from before I even took the SAT. When were you going to tell us about this? She asked while waving the paper around. I tried to explain that it didn't matter because I wasn't going anyway, but that made everything way worse. You got a full scholarship to the honors program and you're not going to take it? Dad shouted louder than I'd ever heard him. Mom grabbed my shoulders and stared at me like I'd completely lost my mind. Do you understand what you're throwing away right now? She asked while tears ran down her face. This doesn't make any sense anymore, Dad said slowly. Did you fail that test on purpose? The question hung in the air while Caleb started coughing from the hallway where he'd been listening. I couldn't look at either of my parents because answering would mean breaking the promise I'd made 3 months ago when Caleb first got his diagnosis. Answer the question, Mom said in this broken whisper. That's when Caleb walked into my room looking pale and tired. Stop yelling at her. She's the only reason I'm still alive right now, he said really quietly. My parents just stared at him totally confused until he lifted his shirt to show a chemo port in his chest. She failed the test on purpose to stay here with me for treatment since you guys were already stressed about money. Mom dropped into the nearest chair while Dad grabbed Caleb, staring at the medical port like it wasn't real. You have cancer? How long have you known? Mom asked me in this broken whisper. 3 months, I finally told them. He made me promise not to tell you until after college stuff was done. I couldn't leave him here by himself. Caleb explained about finding out he had cancer and how I'd been driving him to treatments while they were at work. Dad looked at me with this face I'll never forget. You messed up your whole college future to take care of your brother without telling us? His voice cracked on the last word, and Mom just kept shaking her head like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Caleb finished treatment 8 months later, and the cancer was completely gone by the next spring. I waited 1 year to make sure he stayed healthy. Then I started the honors program with a new scholarship they offered for students who took gap years.